some of the best sales I'd done were early like that, where I was maybe more naturally inquisitive and didn't think I knew what I was talking about.
Welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind successful machine shops and their owners. By interviewing current and former shop owners, we dig deep to unveil their secrets of success and the struggles and challenges they've overcome on their paths to building thriving shops. We aim to elevate how important the machining industry is and inspire others by highlighting why owning a shop can be a great vehicle to creating jobs, stimulating the economy, and creating wealth. Here's our host, former machine shop owner himself, Paul Van Meter.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Machine Shop Mastery. I got to sit down today with Zach Overton from Overton Industries. They are a very diversified business just south of Indianapolis, doing everything from carbide tool and die work to contract CNC machining to super high-speed stamping. Imagine 300 million parts a year, to a business that makes very sophisticated and complex tube making and manipulating equipment, like adding holes or heat treating or measuring or expanding or doing other cool stuff. So again, really widely diversified shop, about 100 people, pushing 20 million in revenue. What I love about this conversation is just how much it resonates about the important work that small manufacturers do, right? So Zach and his team, it's a 3-generation business. His grandfather started it in 1968. His father and uncles took the reins when their grandfather unfortunately passed away in an accident unexpectedly. But they were really driven to build the business because of the community impact. And I just love that being sort of foremost in their minds of, sort of doing well by doing good. And to have 100 employees and families supported throughout their community is just fantastic. Zach brings a lot of wisdom to this show. I love the way they are transparent with their employees about finances, where the money goes when they take on a job, how they are really open, to learn from other shops. Zach does a lot of networking. I met him through NTMA, which, plug for NTMA. It's just such an amazing organization. And then last thing we ended with, they've really leaned into marketing in the last several years. And he says they have generated more than $10 million of brand new business because of their marketing efforts. So if that's not a reason to invest in some marketing in your business, I don't know what is. So it's a great conversation, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Let's get into it with Zach. Zach, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here, buddy.
Yeah, hey, Paul. Good to be here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we've gotten to know each other quite a bit over NTMA events and some AMT events, and I think you have a pretty cool 3rd-generation family business, and I'd love you to tell us about it. So let's start with sort of what the business looks like today, what you specialize in, your approximate size, specialty, and then let's go back and talk about the history with your grandfather and everything going forward.
Yeah, so our business is Overton Industries. We're based in Indiana, just south of Indianapolis. And currently, as we are today, we have 2 businesses, essentially. They kind of operate independently in some ways and together in others. But one is Tube Forming Systems. That's a facility in Franklin, Indiana. We design and build special machines, tooling, and automation systems for OEMs. Primarily, our background, as the name suggests, is in a tubing application, but we've also ventured outside of just that market. A lot of automotive to start out with, but we've diversified a lot into HVAC, plumbing, natural gas, a lot of other areas.
So you're making the machines that do pipe bending and forming?
Basically everything but bending. So, there are some specialty benders we certainly work with and partner with, but essentially, we do everything else. So if you want to form the end of it, if you want to put holes in it, if you want to size it, shape it, automate it to where you're going raw material to finished product at the end, whether it's inspection, forming, heating, you want to do cycle counting, you want to do barcode reading, you want to laser engrave it, anything you want to do from beginning to end is kind of our niche at this point.
Very cool. I imagine those machines get complicated fast.
Yeah, they certainly we've taken on some pretty crazy projects the last few years for sure that have pushed us and gotten us some new abilities and some trials and tribulations along the way for sure. Just like any new project, new programs, but
Hmm.
it's made us stronger in a lot of ways. So
Super
that's
cool.
half of our business.
Okay.
The other half is our tool and die business. And so that's made up of a few different areas. We started as a traditional tool and die business. Our specialty was in carbide tooling. That's where my grandfather had come from. So we do a lot of carbide related tooling, whether that's form tooling or in die tooling.
Mm-hmm.
But we still do a lot of carbide. We do a lot of precision dies. So that's progressive tools. We do a lot in the compaction industry. So magnets, body armor, ceramics,
Okay.
different applications there. We do a lot more contract machining today than we ever have.
Hmm.
We have a lot of great people, a lot of machinery that's been developed to make tooling over the years. And a lot of
Hmm.
tool shops have an excess capacity of spindle time. So we've made a real
Yeah.
push in the last couple of years to let's level load the shop a little better. Let's utilize some of the talented people we have and the spindles that are available. So we do a considerable amount of contract machining now, and especially compared to what we had been doing. And then the last segment of that business, we've actually taken on quite a bit of stamping as well. So we've been doing high speed stamping for about 20 plus years. We actually took our first order for the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of parts, and we didn't even own a press yet. So it was a bit of a strategic move by the owners at the time, my dad and uncles, and it's turned into a great business. We did that for a very specific customer, but we've been making those types of tools for a very long time. 40, 50 type years,
Yeah.
and we have another customer. We just kind of started what I would consider a true stamping business in the last 3 years beyond just the one customer. And so today we're stamping just north of 300 million parts a year. So
300 million.
very fast.
Holy cap.
Yeah,
So,
we get
so
into
these are the
speeds of like
these,
600 strokes a minute, 700 strokes a minute. You might
what?
get three finished parts every stroke. So there's times you could be doing 1,500 to 2,000 parts a minute. So
Oh my
very
gosh.
fast.
Next time I'm in Indy, I'm coming down to see you guys. I gotta see that in
It's a
person.
unique thing to see. When you come from an area where maybe you see stamping presses and you see 30 strokes a minute or man, 60 strokes a minute, that's fast, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you see high speed presses and they're going so fast you can't even hear it bottoming out every time. It's just different, it's that's the beautiful part of manufacturing. Every time you think you've seen it all, you find something that just blows your mind.
What is up, Metalworking Nation, Making Chips family? It is an even year, which means IMTS is coming. September 14th through 19th at McCormick Place in beautiful Chicago. It is the largest manufacturing trade show in North America, bringing together thousands of manufacturers, OEMs, and solution providers every 2 years to explore how new technologies are being applied to real shop floors. So whether you're planning future capital investments, benchmarking operations, or simply trying to cut through the noise around emerging technologies, IMTS is designed to help manufacturers make better, more informed decisions. Whether you've been going for years or this might be your first time, put it on your calendar right now. Schedule your time away from the shop. It's good to get out and see new things. It's going to be a big party. I hope to see you there. Go to imts.com and register today. Yeah. Yeah, that is super cool. Well, that really does blow my mind. That's a lot of parts.
Yeah.
That's like orders of magnitude more than most shops will
Yeah.
produce in a year.
There's days, many days in a row, we'll produce well over 1 million pieces a day. So
Wow. You must be using counting scales. You're not, or I don't know. How do you even count parts that like that?
well, the system, the CNC control will certainly do the counting of strokes, and we know how many
Mm-hmm.
parts we're getting per. But we do a lot of tumbling, deburring, those
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things. And so we have to do that after all of these parts. They have to get wet tumbled and then dry tumbled. And then as they're dry tumbled, they get weighed and packaged by weight. We certainly aren't sitting there counting 300 million
Yeah.
pieces a year into boxes.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So,
Yeah. 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 Wild. Okay. Interesting. And what's the approximate size of the business today?
yeah, so we're just under 100 people, including some part-time staff. So we've kind of had some up and down years with COVID
Sure.
and then coming back. And we've had quite a bit of changeover in some of our top customer base in the last 5 to 7 years. So our budget's going to be north of 20 million this year. So it's a new challenges as we grow to scale effectively and not just keep doing things the same way. So it's been challenging in good ways and exciting in a lot of others.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a topic to get into, scaling effectively.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned, well, and I, of course, know from our chats that your grandfather started this, and you said more than 50 years ago. So when was this business started? How was it started?
Yeah, so my grandfather, his name was Ruby. He worked at a shop in Indianapolis, and they specialized in carbide tooling. And basically, they ended up getting purchased by a larger company. And the company that came in really didn't buy the business for the part he worked in, which was this carbide compaction tooling. They were just going to kind of scrap it, move him to a different area. And basically he went to to management and said, "Hey, I know these customers. I know this tooling. If you guys aren't going to keep it going, can I take this customer base and make it my own?" And they seemingly didn't have a problem because that's what he ended up doing. So he rented a 900 square foot former cabinet shop in town and had a couple machines and did it mostly on his own for a little bit. And then he added a full-time and a couple part-time people and just started to grow. And all of that was in 1968. So
1968. Okay.
I think it's a similar story to how a lot of shops get started, whether it's you figure it out and you just go out on your own, or this is maybe a little bit unique where the shop gets purchased and you're able to kind of have some built-in customer base, which I think is what business doesn't want that. But our first customer was RCA in Indianapolis, and they stuck with us a long time until they were basically no longer in Indianapolis. So it's nice to start a business with a Fortune 500 type company. So
yeah, no doubt. Wow. So tell us, 'cause I'm sure, like me, many need to understand this. Carbide compaction tooling. You're not machining this stuff. Are you EDMing it and grinding it, or like how are you actually cutting or making the shapes of this carbide?
Carbide it's certainly a different material compared to your normal steels, aluminums, but the vast majority of it's going to be ground. We use carbide tipped wheels, carbide impregnated wheels primarily, but we do a lot of wire EDM, sinker EDM, those types of applications as well. It's just so durable. It's a tough sell sometimes to get into a customer with carbide, but they see the durability of it, the longevity of it, and sometimes it's a real calculation game for them. The cost is significantly more than a steel tool, but if they take care of it and they understand how to maintain it, it should outlive the comparable steel tool by 5 times, probably at a minimum, depending on the application, but even north of 7, 8, 10 times. So you factor that not only with the material cost, the tool cost, but if you're in a heavy changeover business, if you can reduce your changeovers 10x by going to carbide, that's kind of one of the hidden benefits that a lot of people don't really think of.
Got it. Wild. And
they do, depending on the grade of carbide too, there are some wizards when it comes to the insert industry, drills, tools, because they do have some tools that some carbide grades can be milled and turned, and we do some of that depending on the application. So it used to be almost exclusively grinding, and now there's some applications where you can do what I would consider a more traditional turning milling application with some specialized tools.
So just a slightly higher grade of carbide that's a little harder than the carbide you're machining.
It's like a diamond impregnated diamond tipped inserts. So they have
Wow.
it's beyond carbide for sure.
Now, is it the case that you can't grind carbide with diamond? Is that right?
No, that's pretty much the only thing you can grind it with.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing we grind it with. You know, there's
Got it.
I've learned never to say never. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat in this industry. So maybe there are some other ways, but you know, as
Hmm.
far as we've seen, you know, it's certainly carbide is done best with diamond impregnated tooling.
Okay. Very good. So I'm fascinated by the evolution of businesses, and obviously starting with a nice customer or a few, making this carbide tooling, and then tell us sort of the progression over the next several years, many years, as it got into the tube machines and all the other stuff.
Yeah, I think from 1970 to about 1986, my grandfather ran it as essentially a lifestyle business, and that was something we kind of heard recently that comment at a conference we were at, and
Hmm.
I think it was a lifestyle business. You know, it was able to provide for his family, and you know, he was able to go to Florida in the winter time and do some things that
Hmm.
he wanted to do at a relatively young age, and so the business grew. I think in 1986, unfortunately, he passed away kind of unexpectedly in an
Mm.
accident, and
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
his three sons, two of which were working in the business, one wasn't. They became owners overnight, and so they had 18, 19 employees. They were just under $1 million in sales,
Hmm.
and none of the three. I think if you talk to them, none of the three really planned on being the owner of Overton Industries.
Yeah.
But it certainly galvanized them. And Ron, my uncle, who was not working in the business at the time, he came in and they found a way to divide and conquer. Ron was our kind of our sales and engineering focused owner.
Hmm.
Rick, my other uncle, he kind of took over the operations of the floor and the manufacturing process. And luckily, my dad, Steve, he had a business degree. So he was able to kind of take on the office and
Mm.
bills and payroll and all the things to keep the wheels churning in the background. So
Okay.
they learned very early on, though, that a 19 person, 100 or a $1 million a year business is not going to support three owners.
Sure.
So it was scale or otherwise, you know, they don't know
Right.
what else, but they just knew that staying the same was not working. And it was going to, you can't have a lifestyle business that supported one family supporting three families. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's when
Well,
they started diversifying and trying to turn it into more than a lifestyle business.
okay.
So
Well, those are the sort of there's three specialties in my mind are the three legs of the stool, right? You have the
yeah,
finance and business side, you have the operations side, and you have the sales and marketing side. And the founders of my shop, Pro CNC, like ultimately, that's the legs that we had too, right?
yeah.
Three of us, and those three different legs. So it's serendipitous, I guess, that they kind of fell into those roles and had
Yeah.
strengths in those areas.
Yeah, it worked out kind of, I think, in some ways naturally. I think if you talk to them, there was a lot of friction along the way. That's for sure. I mean, it was not always easy by any means, but I think luckily they were three of them, so there was always a tiebreaker. You know, if it
Hmm.
was just two, I think that would have been more difficult. But you know, so that's when the business kind of turned, I think, from a lifestyle business into let's make something that's more substantial. So, you know, since the late 80s, essentially, they took over and they retired mostly in 2018-ish. You know, we were up into the mid-teens in revenue, millions in revenue, and
Hmm.
you know they 15x the business over the course of their career, and I think that's something they're really proud of. And as much
Absolutely.
as anything, they really enjoyed employing people and being a positive influence in the community, and they were very interested in giving back along the way. And that's something I think they're the most proud of, not the revenue, not the
Hmm.
profitability necessarily, but the ability to impact their community and the people that worked for them. So that's a nice legacy, certainly, to be a part of.
Yeah, that's special. That's sound like good people. Well, that's pretty cool. And so, when did you get involved in the business?
So I graduated. I graduated high school in 2006. I was planning on going to Indiana University, big IU guy my whole life, mainly for the sports side, but they obviously have an incredible business school as well, and had kind of always planned on being a part of the business. I used to go in with my dad, like every shop owner's kid. Mine was a little bit different. My dad was the office guy, not the on the shop
Hmm.
floor guy. So um, my Saturdays were sometimes spent helping him run reports or make PowerPoints or get prepared for board meetings, those kinds of things. So I did my fair share of cleaning machines and those kinds of things. I did a lot of driving, learned how to drive a stick shift with about 4 minutes of tutorial from our
Oh
shipping
boy,
manager.
no
Uh,
pressure.
no pressure. He said you'll figure it out by the time you get back. So, and he was right. So it was a bit different. I wasn't the running a drill press, learning how to, be a CNC machinist. That was not my background, but the business had been really tough. We'd gone through the ups and downs of the economy, and my dad, I think, felt like I may have been doing it out of going into the business out of family desire to continue, or out of a desire to keep the legacy going. And so he
Hmm.
really pushed me hard to not join the business. And
Oh wow. Okay.
so as I go into college now, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I have this plan of this is what's going to happen, and it changes. So I actually started college as a Spanish major. I spent some time in Mexico, lived with a family as a part of an IU high school pilot
Hmm.
program. And so I went from that to, okay, Spanish is not something I want to do as a career. It's just, I was by chance good at the time. So, I got a business administration degree, and basically had to fight to join the family business. And so after I graduated college, very openly told them I want to work here, and they said not yet. And so they helped me set up an internship at a local business that we were very good friends with. Some people may know him, Major Tool in
Oh
Indianapolis,
sure. Well, that's
and
cool.
that's kind of going back to an earlier conversation today. You think you know what machining looks like, and then you go to a place like
Oh
Major,
yeah.
and you're like, well, I really don't know much of anything yet. So I did a bit
Sure.
of an internship there for about nearly a year, and
Hmm.
I started off loading and unloading pallets on a production line,
Hmm.
and then I got to spend some time doing inspection and some other things for them, and so it was pretty eye opening on what it takes to make a bigger business work. They were certainly significantly larger than Overton, so it was really beneficial. I worked that year and then was able to go back to Overton. So now I've been actively full time in our business for about 13 years. So been an interesting time. So
Yeah. So, did your dad and your uncles just really want you to have some experience outside the business
yeah,
to?
I think there's two sides to it. I think they wanted outside experience for sure. Just,
Hmm.
it's hard to have perspective if you've only seen it from one angle.
Yeah.
So I think that was good. I think the other half is they just wanted me to earn it,
Hmm.
not come in straight away and maybe take things for granted. So, I was starting at 6 a.m., just working with, the guys in that business. And, I didn't live real close. So, I had to leave the house, 5:10 to get there. And so I think it was them kind of testing me on, is he going to stick with it? Does he really want to do this? And if he does, then it's also a great experience to see this business
Hmm.
from something that's very different, similar, but very, very different. So I think they were very thoughtful and forward thinking in trying to set me up for success by not giving me the easy road for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that. You hear of the businesses where the nepotism is just deep, and the owner's kids just come and.
There were a lot of times I was like, where is the nepotism? This would be nice, but I wouldn't take it any other way. And I hope they don't hear this because I don't want to give them too much credit, but I do think it was certainly a good choice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Very good. And your emphasis is kind of more in your dad's footsteps, your front office, your sales.
Yeah, I've been a mixture of my dad, who's the business side, and Ron, who's kind of our sales engineering side. So I didn't want to do 2 or 3 semesters of calculus in college, so I didn't become an engineer. But my bend is certainly more on the sales marketing and then kind of the business administration side of the business. So I came in and just first thing was doing some marketing for a few months, working for my uncle. We had, we were trying to look at CRM systems. We didn't really have anything. They were kind of a newer type thing at that point. There were some options that we evaluated, but then shortly thereafter, I got kind of pushed into our tube forming systems division, and I started selling. One of the products we sold were tube mill rolls. So we did solid carbide or inserted carbide tube mill rolls, selling to tube mills around the Midwest that take the flat material and roll it up into a round or square tube or odd shaped tubes. And I had no clue what I was doing to start. That's for sure. I got about 2 ride-alongs with Ron on, this is kind of what this is how it works, and good luck. And, luckily I'd grown up around adults, around business. And so I could usually talk pretty well with people of authority, people that maybe know more about you. And I think actually I was probably some of the best sales I'd done were early like that, where I was maybe more naturally inquisitive and didn't think I knew what I was talking about. And so I think when you come with that kind of raw lack of understanding but an obvious desire to learn, I think the people I was selling to felt that. And they almost wanted to help me as much as I wanted to sell, So
that's perfect.
I spent probably 2 or 3 years. That was kind of my main focus, was going to all these businesses that needed tube mill rolls and trying to grow that business.
Hey, Mike, how often does an outside service provider keep you up at night?
Every day. I mean, the team's looking for updates on that. Every day we have a job that we need to know on.
How often is it heat treating?
I mean, large majority.
Yeah. Imagine if you could go log into your supplier's website, visit a client portal, and see exactly the status of your job.
Well, that would be very helpful because, typically when we're looking, it's because our customer's looking. And I don't like having to say, we'll call you back. I like to be able to just look and tell them.
Yeah.
And when it's not in my shop, I can't do that right now.
I think honesty and transparency is something that most manufacturing leaders want to deliver to their customers. But what I love about Phoenix Heat Treat is they literally created this client portal. It's the most transparent, the most honest you can be. It says exactly where the job is, and it makes it super easy for guys like you to tell their customers what to expect.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I wish all of our outside processors had that. Nick, how do we get a hold of them?
So you go to phoenix-heat-treating.com. That's phoenix-heat-treating.com. They're serving customers all over the country.
I love that. Yeah, there's some real wisdom there that, selling with just curiosity and, trying to help and, not being a know-it-all, I think that's an effective stance, no matter how experienced you actually might be, right?
Yeah, I think naturally people on the other side, people we're selling to, they typically come with expertise, and they want to a lot of times show you that, hey, I know what I'm doing, and if we can work together, like we have experience in certain things, he has experience or she has experience in certain things, and if we can work together, then the outcome is going to be much better than me just trying to push something on you or you telling me you know exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Let's work together and find a solution that works for both of us. And, usually that was pretty successful.
That's cool. I like it. Very good. All right. So nearly 100 folks is a lot. It's hard to find folks, as you know. I don't know if it's your number one problem, but I know when we saw during NTMA Engage and they present on the survey that they do every year, like for the last 10 years straight, employees was the number one issue. So yeah, how do you find your folks? How do you retain them? What's your culture like? Like all the people side of things.
I think this is probably in the last couple years, I'll say specifically the last maybe 18 months, I think has become the most important thing that I'm working on a, kind of higher level of management, essentially. We actually, I think we do a great job at hiring and retaining really good people. I think that's evidenced in the longevity of some of the employees we have. I think we have one employee that's 46 or 47 years. We have a number of them are 30 plus, 25 plus, 20 plus. So I think we do a lot of things right. I don't think I wouldn't characterize it maybe as our number one problem, but it's our number one opportunity. And
sure.
We've done a good job so far. And I think a lot of that really goes back to my dad. Part of what he did was, before it was kind of cool or, the need of the day to go out and work with your high schools and work with your technical centers and work with your universities, he was doing that 25 years ago and developing these relationships. And NTMA has played a big role in that, but also just taking the initiative to be on boards and to be in front of educators, instructors, universities, and giving them understanding of what we need, what we're looking for. And it's allowed us to create better programs for the kids that eventually go there by giving our feedback. But also if you're the employer that provides all of the feedback and resources you need, those instructors are also going to be giving you kind of the behind the scenes access on, hey, this guy's really good. And, he's not spoken for yet. He doesn't have a job lined up after school. You probably want to interview him, and that's where I think we would do it either way. We would want to be a part of these schools, but the added benefit of doing it is also getting access to some of the students and the background on them that makes them good students that turn into good employees.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing that for a long time. I think the change has been, you could do that in their first or second year of a trade school in, post-secondary trade school. Well, as the labor markets have gotten tighter and, manufacturing is seeking out more and more people as we lose that kind of baby boomer generation, you're not finding students that are in the first and second year of a college program that are not already working in a shop or already have job offers they've accepted. So as time's gone by, we've needed to back up to where, okay, now we need to talk to the high school seniors, make sure that, we have a relationship. We can bring them in during summers. We can have them in over breaks, and then eventually, maybe pay for or be a part of their secondary education experience. But even that sometimes is too late now. So we keep pushing it back further. Now, we want to be talking even earlier to freshmen, sophomores, juniors in high school and getting them to understand what manufacturing is. And that's, I think, what set us apart. I think that's why we haven't maybe had as many, or why it isn't our number one problem. It's not that we're not always looking for people. We're always wanting to grow and to have the best people we can have, but we've been able to be staffed appropriately because of all of these things that we've done for 20 plus years.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm going to hit you up for a series we have coming up on making chips where we're going to be talking about workforce development. So sounds like you guys have a lot of things going well there. So how, for those listening, if they want to start getting involved, especially at the high school level, how do you actually involve with those students? Like, are the schools near you have machining programs, or are you just going and talking, to guidance counselors? And yeah, just explain some of that for us.
It's certainly varied. Indiana is Indiana is the number one state in the U.S. for manufacturing concentration as a part of their economy. We're manufacturing is more important to Indiana than it is any other state. And so I think we have a lot of resources that I'm not for sure every state has, but we have a lot of high schools that still have their own programs. Not as many as there used to be. A lot of them now do, macrame and pottery instead of manufacturing. But I think that is starting to go back the other direction, maybe a little bit. But there are a lot of technical centers. So students from maybe the 10 area high schools might all funnel to one technical center, take classes in the afternoon, or maybe even some of them have the ability to let a student out to work a couple hours a day, a few days a week as a part of kind of an internship program. And that counts towards their school and their education. And so getting in with those students and just being there to support the program is part of it. And then offering tours and doing all the things a lot of shops do. It's not too different. People want to see clean, exciting shops that have cool end products or cool processes, and getting them to understand that this is a cool experiment, a cool thing that they can do with their career. That if they love computers, there's computers everywhere in a machine shop. You don't have to be a Python programmer to use a computer. You can CNC program, you can design, you can be an engineer, and being able to see that and kind of change some of that perception that I can work with my hands and be on a computer and do some of those cool things together. Those are how you get them interested. And then it's about just being there consistently to be a resource for them. And then eventually the best way is for them to kind of come to us, or we talk to their parents. We go to their hiring days or their career days and just try to be a resource. And, it's not a hard sell. If you're interested in what we do, we want to make sure that Overton is the no-brainer choice in our area for you to come work at.
I love it. So when you were talking about the concentration of manufacturing in Indiana, I was reminded a couple of years ago. So we have this customer that is a high school machine shop, and they run a student-run business called Eagle Manufacturing, and they're out of Brown County High School. I don't know if you guys hire from that, if they're close enough to you, but what was interesting is they invited me at one point to come speak at a conference called Uplands Made, and they have this Uplands region, and they had like a dozen student-run businesses that were run out of high schools, and some of them were machining, some of them were like fabrication, but some of them were farming and other. But it was fascinating that there's this incredible concentration of student-run high school businesses, and they're just learning real-world applications. And I'm sure going out and working at manufacturers or starting businesses. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that program. They're a little bit outside of our target region. I mean, they're not too far away. It's, they're maybe a little over an hour away, hour and a half away. So we interact with that a little bit, but they're maybe not part of our core, groups that we work with more regularly. But, we're getting ready to do a marketing series at Overton that I have a cousin, and her son is young, 10, 11 years old. And, he's always said he wants to work for Overton. He even has like a little badge that says junior salesman, and he had to write an ad. He had to write an ad for school that, that was just part of what they did. And his ad was for Overton Industries. And it really sparked an idea in my mind of, what if we use Hunter as his name? What if we used Hunter and made him like our junior spokesman about what is manufacturing? And it's something maybe that can target the junior high, late elementary school kids. And it's not just machinists and engineers, which is what everybody thinks about, but maybe it's marketing people, it's accounting, it's, there's a lot of ways to get into manufacturing that isn't hands-on. And so that's why I love those programs. You talk about the machine shop program and the business they've created, you got to have accounts payable. You have to have accounts
Absolutely.
receivable. You need an operations person. You need marketing. You need
Mm-hmm.
sales.
Yep.
And those are all ways to get into manufacturing that doesn't include cutting chips or making chips. Should have gone with that one first. That would have been better. But there's a lot of ways to get into it. So I think that's a series we're gonna do. He's really excited about it. We're excited about it. And it's just a cool engagement idea of how to get kids interested in manufacturing.
Please share that once you have it. That
Yeah.
is such a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I'm excited to to see Hunter doing his thing and talking about manufacturing. That is so cool. The mini badge. It's like the little airplane things they pilots sometimes give away to little kids. Like you're gonna be a professional salesperson selling machine parts.
Absolutely. And he's excited about it. I mean, it's been years of, no, I'm going to work for you. Like, I'm going to be a machinist, or I'm going to be an engineer. And I fully believe it.
Gosh, how do we get that into way more kids?
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool. All right, let's move on to the topic of, I guess, maybe some of the sort of business metrics and KPIs and how you communicate those to your team, and finances. Like, are you guys open book with like the good and the bad? Let's just talk in that area a bit.
Yeah, as long as I've been in our business, we've been, I would say, pretty transparent. I don't know how much more transparent you could really get, but we have regular cadence meetings with all of our employees in each facility, and sometimes it's been monthly. So we've tried quarterly. We're sometimes trying to find what that cadence is best, but we share pretty much everything. I mean, we talk about where our sales are at, where our revenue's at, where our profitability is at. And, sometimes we talk more in percentages than dollars, but there's times we just say, this is where profitability is. And we try to, I don't think we maybe do it as well as we could or should. And that's something I think we're certainly working on, but trying to distill the information down to where it's actionable for the people that are turning and milling and, sweeping the floor even. How do you impact this bottom line or the top line? And, we did a meeting a year or two ago, and I put a dollar sign, just a dollar bill, on the PowerPoint. And, I started coloring it in as we went on, material accounts for this much. So, if we can buy less, we can keep more of the end of the dollar. And so when you show them material and direct labor and outsourcing and insurance and all these things that make a difference, and you get this little sliver sometimes at the end, 1% savings in some areas makes all the difference. And that's where they can kind of come in and make an impact beyond just hitting your times and getting your projects done on time and delivering quality products. I mean, we have to do that. But if you can do those other small things too, that's where we go from having a decent margin and good pay to great margins and bigger bonuses.
Wow. That is such a tangible way to present it to people. And sometimes in some years, some months, the cost is past the end of the dollar bill. There is no profit, right?
Yeah, I think I certainly stole that from someone. It was not a bespoke Zach Overton original, but it was a great way of visually telling that story. That sometimes, I feel like we're not great at, we throw numbers at them, and some people just don't understand that way with just number after number after number if you're not looking at it regularly. So how do you put it in sometimes a visual reference that they can grasp a little bit better? So we try, cool. We're always looking for something different, something to re-engage people or to meet them, in a different aspect. And, sometimes we do a good job. Sometimes we swing and miss, but, it's always worth continuing our improvement for sure.
That's awesome. All right. Very good. I love that. I love that employees is not your number one challenge, actually. And that's pretty inspiring to, get people to really invest early on. So what is the number one thing you guys are dealing with today to grow the business?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm going to take it more from my slant of the business. And I think currently today struggling might not be the word, but we're optimizing, and we're in a period of transition from being primarily a tool and die business
Mhm.
to, and I'm speaking more of our tool and die side right now, but
Sure.
more of a tool and die business that builds tools to a customer print, or we do some design work to more multifaceted, and really in the contract machining space, it's a different environment that we aren't as locked in on yet. And so
Hmm.
that means in tool and die, we're not quoting setup.
Mm.
That's not even a thing. It's,
Hmm.
if it takes you 8 hours to get the print to a finished part, I don't care whether there's setup or
Sure.
programming. It takes us 8 hours. And
Just one big lump.
a lot
Yeah.
of times it's more like plus or minus, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And that's just the way the tooling business has been.
Hmm.
And that's not a way you're going to be very good in contract machining. So, getting a different perspective from all the way from sales to quoting to routing it on the floor to running it on the floor, seconds matter.
Yeah.
We don't do a ton of super high volume machining. We're doing lots of 5, 10, 50, 100. We don't get into lots of hundreds or thousands when it comes to machining, but and typically they're larger. They're fit inside a 3 foot cube. We're not doing tiny parts. We're not doing
Okay.
giant parts,
It's a
but
good size. Hmm.
our cycle times are sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours to do something beginning to end. And so it's a new challenge for us to think, okay, how can I run this more unattended? How can I keep a second machine running more often? And how do I constantly improve our cycle time? Because, you know, obviously from Pro CNC, you guys probably had jobs. You start out and man, you lose a lot of money on those first two or three, right? And then
Absolutely.
all of a sudden you're breaking even, and then the next job you're making a few percent, and then you optimize, and that optimization process is a bit foreign in the machining world in tool and die. We get one shot.
Right.
You either win or you lose. You're not making 8 of them, and you're not making one die today and the same die the next week.
Hmm.
There are certainly families and things like that, but the optimization is don't scrap it in tool and
Right.
die.
Yeah.
And the optimization in contract machining is how far can I push it before the tool breaks, or how many parts can I get out of this tool, or how how can I set up the part or the fixturing or the machine, or choosing the right machine to either optimize the program or give us longer run times, or how can I set up 10 instead of 2? Those are all things that I'm not a machinist. I'm not an engineer by trade, but I have had the opportunity to go to a lot of businesses in sales, in NTMA, in
Hmm.
the EBITDA world even. And I know there are interesting, cool ways that you can optimize. And we're learning that one day at a time, one experience at a time. And I think we've done a great job. I think for where we were to where we are today, we're so much better at it now. But instilling that continuous improvement mindset in the machining side is certainly something I think is top of mind for management.
Hmm. So as you go around and see other people that do this well and learn and bring it back, what systems or processes are you employing to distill that into your processes and to your people?
That's probably the other half of the other some of the big things that are kind of always in my mind right now are systems and processes, and maybe in this perspective, but also all the other perspectives. But it is a difficult thing to do to effectively communicate. Like, this guy in Iowa has 14 of these parts sitting on his machine in this cool pneumatic clamp or hydraulic clamping, and we're using like one Kurt vise at a time.
Right.
Like, how do you give our machinists, our designers, our engineers, our project managers that information? I don't think we've probably found that magic sauce to effectively communicate it, but it's bringing it back and trying to constantly give them opportunities of like, have you thought this way? Have you thought that way? Creating a system around it is probably something that is still in evolution for sure. But and that's kind of going back to an earlier comment about the longevity of our employees. We would always prefer to have long-term employees. Let me say that first, just in case anybody is listening to this. We want people to be employed at Overton a long time.
Absolutely.
But it does tend to, at times, stagnate your development because you don't have people coming in with different ideas, different experiences. And so how do I, as a manager, bring those experiences to them? And some of that's going to IMTS and getting people out of the bubble. We actually had we were looking at buying a CNC machine, I don't know, 3 years ago, probably a new lathe. And we had some parts. We were really thinking like, we don't do these very well. We do them. It's a family of parts in our tube forming systems business. These were repeatable parts. We make 5 or 10 at a time for some of the machines we build, and they were just taking way too long. And so we're looking at a machine in Indianapolis, a distributor, and we take our primary CNC lathe programmer, machinist, and they say, hey, this should not take, it was something like 3-4 hours we were taking to do this roughing and getting it ready for heat treat process. And they're like, we can, this machine, we can do this in 15 minutes. And, he pretty much, our guy laughs like, yeah, that's funny. But we give them some material, we give them some time to look through it. And they didn't do it in 15 minutes. They did it in 9 minutes.
What?
And
Are you serious?
It was an eye-opening experience. And so that same guy went back to our existing machines that were good. We have Akuma lathes. We don't have, we have good quality machines, but he just was able to learn by seeing someone else, like, you can push these machines way harder than you are today.
Right.
And so I think that's even something maybe you've heard me say, or at NCMA, I try to say it, at EBITDA events, I try to say it. I think our industry is really good at getting someone from high school to an entry-level machinist, or from the military to an entry-level machinist or an operator. But we haven't found a lot of resources to get someone from a good average machinist that's been doing it for 5, 7, 10 years to, expert level machinists. Where's the training to get them there? Because this story I told you about the lathe, like, that's how do we get those experiences into our people and into our shop where they can have those eye-opening experiences saying, there is another way, there is a better way. We're not doing it the best way. And that's, I think, going back to continuous improvement. No matter how good we've gotten the cycle time, no matter how many parts we make a day in stamping, there's always a little faster you could go on setup, or less downtime, and that's part of that challenge of changing. It's a changing goalpost where it used to be, we make one tool, it gets completed, it runs a good part, we're happy, and now you're running the same part maybe for weeks or in sometimes months, and you have to change that goalpost from getting one part good to how can I go from 12 and a half minutes to 11 minutes to 9 minutes to 8 minutes, and just finding it's just a new challenge. And so that's where we're at today, is kind of embracing a new challenge and kind of changing our focus in some ways while still retaining our tool and die heritage.
So I think in a lot of shops, it's the tooling salesmen, it's the work holding salesmen that come by and say, hey, I have this slick new carbide insert, with special coating, and I can, double your feed rate of what I see you doing there. Do you have guys like that are guys and gals coming to help that, but still,
we certainly do.
It's not getting you the massive improvement that you saw at this dealership?
I would say it's impacting us for sure. It does make us better. It makes you think, it makes you question, okay, if we're using the same insert that we did 6 years ago with the same coating and the same, orientation, the flutes and all the stuff I don't even really know anything about, we're probably behind because, it's like a computer. If you're using a MacBook from 2010 and you're using a MacBook that was made today, like it's just going to be so much faster. And it's kind of the same thing, I think, in machines and machining technology and programming and, tooling technology. You got to stay up with the times. You're just going to kind of die a slow death. And so those people do help us kind of stay up on things, but to me, it's more about the methodology. How do we keep our methodology up? Because you don't learn that at IMTS. You don't learn that from a tooling vendor, or at least most tooling vendors. Maybe there are some that those guys were machinists, were programmers, and they might be able to say, hey, you're circle milling this when you should be doing this method, or, they can give you some tips, but it's how do you find the 200, 300 level, graduate level machining education for guys that are already good? I think that's a real middle ground that's missing in our industry.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know that, Titans of CNC does some pretty neat stuff pushing machines super hard, but I don't know. I know most of their instruction, their like curriculum is for entry level stuff. So yeah, that's an opportunity for somebody.
Whether it's Titan or anyone else, the first thing most people, whether it's in our business or others, the first thing they always say when I show them a video, or man, look how cool this is. They go, well, that's definitely aluminum. They're not cutting what we cut, And I'm like, just give it a chance, But there's a healthy there's a healthy doubt of how realistic some of those things are. But
skepticism.
You got 3 to 4 hours down to 9 minutes. That's in your face. You know exactly how it's working. So
that's wild.
It was an eye-opening experience for sure, but it made that machinist better the second he got back, because he took that from that one job and he applied the same methodology to every other job he's running. So it was pretty cool to see how our efficiency really took off just from that one experiment, that one experience that he was able to have by being outside our four walls.
Yeah. Super cool. All right. So very few shops get to 100 people or close to that. What would you say are the best sort of strategic things that you guys have done over all these years? You go see lots of shops on NTMA tours and what have you. So, what have you seen that you're doing that other shops are not, that have allowed you to grow to the size you are?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Just a disclaimer, I guess, that I've been in a lot of shops that are 20 people that are amazing. They can machine circles around companies that have 100 or 200 or 300 people. So, size isn't always everything it's meant to be or everything people think it is. But I think what's been good for Overton is, and I hope our employees would echo this, is we typically are very good at giving someone the responsibility to make decisions, and growing internally. Our operations manager has been with us 20 plus years. Actually, our division manager in our tool and die business, his name's Steve. He's been with us 37 years, and he went into an apprenticeship program, was a machinist, worked his way up to a group leader, became the operations manager under my uncle for 10 or 12 years. My uncle retires, and he's a natural selection to be the division manager. And, giving people the ability to make decisions along the way and grow, that's a hard thing, I think, for a lot of machine shops to do, because you don't have the scale to give promotions to people every year. It's, most shops only have one layer of management. So there are no VPs. There's no assistant operations manager roles in a lot of these places. And so I think that's a struggle is if you're not growing and scaling, it is hard to give people a career path that shows them upward trajectory. And I think the ones that are typically very aggressive and want to grow and want to do bigger and better all the time, those people are sometimes hard to keep because you can't give them that trajectory they're looking for. But I recently hired somebody in a non-technical role, but she she came from a business that she was getting to do a small sliver of the job she wanted to do. It was very segmented because they were a large company. They were well over 1,000 employees in a different industry, and she wanted to grow and do things more than just the one segment she was getting to do.
Yeah.
And so part of our hiring process, I knew that that was important to her. And in some ways, she was taking a step backward because, maybe the pay wasn't as good or the benefits weren't as good as a big company like that. But, I told her, you're going to get an experience here that you're not going to get where you're at now. And we're going to give you all of the rope you need to do all of the things you want to. We need to grow people. We need to grow, our training processes. We need to do all of these different things that we don't have somebody in house right now that has the time to dedicate to it. So I know that you are aspirational and you want to do big and great things in your career. I can't guarantee you that we'll always be able to give that to you, but I can guarantee you in 3 to 5 years, if you're here, our business is going to be better and you're going to be set up to take the next step, whether it's with Overton or with someone else. And if we can do all these steps in between, I got no problem giving you the greatest recommendation you'll ever have. And even if we're a stepping stone to bigger and better things for you because we can't offer what you're looking for, that's okay because, you got what you were looking for in experience. We got what we were looking for in aspiration and attitude and desire to make changes and improve our processes. And you don't have to be at Overton forever. I'd love for you to be, but if you feel like we're getting stagnant after 3, 4, 5 years and you've gotten what you needed, that's okay. And I think those are the kind of conversations that I try to have with people that we're looking at hiring or our current employees that, we want to be a part of not just your 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. life. We want to have a culture that builds people up and gives them a leg up to do what they want to do long term. And, that's from the floor all the way to management. That's, from entry level to the top paid people we have. If you can give them more than just a work experience and a culture that feels like, hey, we really care about you. We care about your development personally, work, at your work life, your home life. And, we want to work with people that enjoy each other, enjoy the atmosphere. And if you can do that, I think that lets you keep people a long time and helps give you the solid base to grow into 100 people and some revenue to go along with it.
Well, that was a great answer for being an off-the-cuff question. So that was fantastic.
Well, I've been in sales a long time now, so it's a learned skill.
You were speaking from the heart. I know that. It wasn't just a pitch.
Yeah.
So beyond what you've already shared, for those shops looking to grow and thrive in this industry, what advice would you have to them in their journey?
Growth is from the sales and marketing side of my responsibilities, we've really embraced marketing. And I think that's something that a lot of companies, when you're smaller, maybe you don't have the resources to do some of the things that we do, but you don't have to start big. It can kind of grow. So I think putting some real time, thought, and energy into marketing has been a really big benefit for Overton. We came into 2020 thinking we were going to have a great year. COVID happens, and it really made us question, okay, how are we going to sell to the people that we work with and that we want to work with that maybe we don't work with yet? So we've always said, if we can get someone in our business, meet our people, see our shop, understand our processes, the likelihood they're going to become a customer is infinitely higher. But that's not an option now. We can't be in front of them. They can't really be in front of us. So we had a website. It was decent, but it was lacking from a perspective of, hey, this is our only sales tool to show off Overton. So we put a lot of time and money into our website, into some videos, which transitioned into Google Ads and ABM campaigns, and just thinking about marketing as more than just let's throw some money and see what sticks. It's a really strategic endeavor. We have a full-time marketing manager that we hired. She had actually started as a receptionist, but had some background in design and different things. So she has a real good eye for those kinds of things. And so we've kind of worked together over the last 5 years. And we were just looking the other day. I think if we haven't crossed it, we're right at getting ready to cross it. But in the last 4.5 to 5 years, we've generated right around $10 million in new customer business from that's directly attributable to our marketing website, Google ad campaigns. And so it's made a major impact in our ability to grow for sure. And so my thing is, don't be afraid to not just look at sales, but look at the marketing side of your business. And, even if it's just starting by making a LinkedIn post once a week, or, going to a trade show, or doing some of the things that maybe are a little uncomfortable for you as an owner, as, a business that doesn't have a marketing person, putting yourself out there and letting people see, who you are, what you're good at, why they would work with you, using your customers' own testimonials. I think, Paul, you're maybe as good as anybody at ProShop on having your customers tell your story for you. It's one thing to hear Paul say, "Hey, this is a great ERP software. We can do all these things." Well, that's just Paul saying his stuff's cool.
Sure.
Why would I believe Paul? But, if you can have a customer in your booth at a trade show, or a customer on a podcast, or just a customer on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I had this problem. I wasn't able to get this report, or the data didn't make sense, but, ProShop worked with me and made an edit to the software, made an upgrade, and now it does exactly what I'm looking for." That feedback from a customer is worth 10 times more than you just saying it yourself. So
for sure,
find those little ways to get the free advertising, free publicity, and never be afraid to kind of tout your own abilities, because no one's going to do it for you, for sure.
Hey, it's Paul from Making Chips. If you've been burned by recruiters who don't understand manufacturing, you are not alone. That's exactly why we created Hire MFG Leaders. We're not just recruiters, we're current and former shop owners, and we know what it takes to lead in this industry. Whether you're hiring your next operations leader, sales manager, or production supervisor, we'll help you find someone who actually fits. Learn more at makingchips.com/hire. That's a great takeaway. I think you're right. Many shop owners are very humble, and they don't want to seem like they're bragging about how great their shop is or what the work they can do. But you're right. No one else is going to do it for you. And people want to hear, that. So
it's funny. We do work with a third-party marketing company that gives us some support and some help on different activities. But as a part of that process, we went through like personas of, okay, who does Overton want to be? And they had like a big brand wheel. And one of those was the Everyman. And that was kind of the title of that persona. And then they have other national brands that kind of use that same thing. And one of them was Levi's. They're Ford, sure. Levi's and Ford trucks, I think. There's nothing special about what we do, but we do it well. We do it every day. We put in the hard work. We do all this stuff. And that's the way we started. And that's the way I think we want to be internally. But it led to us being, I think, a little too soft in our external marketing. Like, we just try hard and, let the cards fall where they are. Well, that's not really who we want to be, especially on our tube forming side. We're doing multi-million-dollar projects that are just insane technology. And so we've actually switched to a Hero, and can't remember what the other one was, but they're like a Nike Apple kind of thought process when we're going out and marketing, and we're doing a big website update now. We want you to think of Overton as high tech, forward thinking, highly developed. people that are pushing the boundaries on what can be done, not necessarily always the Everyman, the Levi's brand of like, we try hard. And, those are all great things to have, but we're more than just a small family company now. We want to be, we want that internally, the family company, but externally, we want to show that, we have a lot of skills and development that we've undergone to be a great supplier, vendor, partner for all of our customers. So I'd say think of your persona and how your marketing is going to sound, because I think there is a difference, and it needs to match who you are, and find that persona that makes sense for you, and tout it as much as you can.
I like it. Yeah, I'm actually on your website, overtonind.com, and under project highlights, it says, "We don't mean to brag. Okay, maybe just a little." Right. And then shows these amazing machines and tools and dies that you make. So that's a nice balance to and add a little bit of humor in there. So, Zach, this has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate you coming on and sharing so much. If people want to learn more, connect with you, learn more about Overton, where would you send them?
Yeah, like I said, we put a ton of effort into our website. So, you mentioned, I'll mention it again. It's overtonind.com. So like industry, so overtonind.com. But you can certainly find out a lot about Overton there. We try to be really active on LinkedIn. You can find us at Overton Industries on that as well. Find me personally on LinkedIn, and, always interested in whether it's talking to a customer, a vendor, people in the industry. I get a lot out of the networking I do, and, always happy to talk to people about anything. If you had a question about something I said, like, do you really do this? Do you really do that? Always happy to talk to people. So reach out to us through the website. Happy to talk a little bit more for sure.
Okay, awesome. And we didn't get to it, but for those out there that are shutterbugs, Zach is also a professional photographer. So
I have been paid $5
to do photography.
$5, but that's professional. That's
for making
I think
jokes.
The legal boundary is I've been paid. So,
well, buddy, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for coming on today, and look forward to seeing you at an event soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.